everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Superman, Brainiac. Brainiac, one of the most deadliest, smartest, ruthless villains that Superman has ever come into contact with. He is legendary among Superman's rogue gallery, second only to Lex Luthor. When you think Superman, you obviously think Lex, but right away afterwards, you'll think Brainiac. And there's been so many different versions of Brainiac. So many different battles with Brainiac. There's been battles in the sky, battles in space, battles on Earth, with robotic Brainiac, Brainiacs that are super powered or super smart. There's been so many different fights and so many different versions of Brainiac. But which one is the true Brainiac? See, Superman, as much as we love him, his continuity has kind of always been messed up. It's always been kind of shady and gray on what exactly is canon and what is not. Not just with characters like Brainiac, but with other stuff like Krypton and his family and what exactly is Kandor. How many bottle cities are there? There's like 12 million. So, with that, Superman needs a facelift. And Superman and Brainiac starts that facelift, consolidating all the information with not only Brainiac, but with also Superman's world as a whole. Will this be a good thing for the Man of Steel, or will it be a bad thing? And will Superman be able to go up against one of his most fiercest, dangerous foes he's ever fought and succeed? Or will at the end of the day, will he lose? Well, you're just going to have to see. Let's talk about story. Now the story starts off pretty simple. Superman's having a normal day as Clark Kent at the Daily Planet, until something enters Earth's atmosphere. Superman obviously rips off his clothes and flies out to intercept this object, this being, and he finds out that it's Brainiac, a mechanical version of him. Superman fights Brainiac and defeats him, and brings him back to the Fortress of Solitude, where he meets up with his cousin, Supergirl. There, Supergirl makes out a point to Superman that this is not Brainiac. Superman explains that he's fought many different versions of Brainiac throughout the years, and not once has he come back as the same as he did beforehand. There's always been a different version of himself. Supergirl still comments that this isn't Brainiac, and neither were any of those that you fought. Rather, they are probes. Superman comments, exactly how can you know this, Supergirl? And Supergirl says, because no one has ever really fought Brainiac. Supergirl then tells about the story of what really happened to Kandor. And what happened is that Brainiac attacked it, shrunk down the city and stole it away, killing thousands in the process. This has haunted Supergirl for the longest time, and despite how screwed up her memories are with her past on Krypton, there's one thing that she remembers, and that is Brainiac. And the thing is Supergirl is scared. Because of this, Superman decides to go out and find Brainiac, and he is successful in doing so. He finds out that Brainiac sends out probes, some organic, some mechanical. That's the explanation of why there's so many different Brainiacs throughout the different years, is that Brainiac has sent out so many different probes. We find out that Brainiac is also this being that sits inside this chamber, absorbing the knowledge from all the different cities and planets that he has come in contact with. This Brainiac is similar to the one that is in the cartoon show, in that he finds a planet, takes the information, and basically destroys it so he can keep it for himself. However, this Brainiac is organic. He's not a machine. However, he also has superpowers and super strength, to the level of that of Superman. Brainiac and Superman go toe-to-toe, while at the same time, Brainiac is shrinking Metropolis down to size to make it another bottle city to his collection. The question is this, will Superman be able to defeat his nemesis, his enemy, Brainiac, and save Metropolis, along with Kandor and every other city? Or will Brainiac in the end win? Will Superman lose something that is very important to him? Well, you're just going to have to read and see. On to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Well, let's start things off with good. Continuity. Like I said in the intro, continuity with Superman is kind of messed up. It's nowhere as bad as like Power Girl or Donna Troy or Hawkman, but Superman's continuity could be shady, for lack of a better term, with his villains or his backstory, or even with Krypton. And let's take Krypton as an example. Krypton has been depicted in the modern continuity in so many different ways. In the Man of Steel version of Superman, which was his origins right after Crisis of Infinite Earth, Krypton was displayed as a superior scientific race that all wore the same clothes and were emotionally distant from each other and very cold in nature. So cold that they didn't even give live birth to their children. They put their children in incubators. This was a unique and different take on Krypton. Where if we move on to the Return to Krypton, which was done in the early 2000s, Superman goes into a fantasy zone projection, a simulation of what Krypton truly was like. It was radically different than the previous Krypton. People were more emotional, everything was more colorful, everyone wore different suits. Krypton was radically different. Throughout the years, Krypton has been portrayed so differently that you don't really know what is the true Krypton. This obviously gets answered in the new Krypton saga that gets released after Superman Brainiac, but that's a different story for a different time. What I'm trying to make a point here is that Superman's continuity is a little messed up on certain parts, Brainiac being one of them. There's been so many different versions of Brainiac. For example, if you read Panic in the Sky, you have a humanoid alien Brainiac, which is more maniacal and dastardly and villainous than all the other Brainiacs, and he uses superintelligence and telepathy to destroy his enemies. Whereas if you read Superman Endgame, you have a mechanical Brainiac that is a machine that infests Metropolis with his basically Y2K bug, and he's more cold and not so much of a villain, but a computer. There's been so many different versions of Brainiac throughout the years that you really don't know who is the real Brainiac. This answers it. It's kind of a simple answer, but it's an answer that works, is that there is only one true Brainiac, and all the other versions of Brainiacs that I've seen throughout the years are just probes, sent to Earth, sent to different places, to really scout out what that planet has. Now, the question is really, how did all the other Brainiacs get their own personalities, their own agendas? That is questionable, but for lack of a better term, they're all probes, sent by the one true Brainiac. You can make up whatever story you want on why they're so different. Maybe there was a glitch in their programming, or maybe they were just testing out a different way to test out Superman and the planets. Doesn't matter. There's one true Brainiac. And Jeff Johns does a good job at bringing that together. And he makes his Brainiac seem so evil and so scary. There's parts in this book that Brainiac is just absolutely cold and beats the shit out of Superman. There's no hope with this Brainiac. Supergirl is scared shitless of Brainiac. And it really sets the mood, the tone to this character. You're kind of worried on this ominous creature that's coming towards you, this Brainiac, exactly what's going to happen with him. Brainiac, I mean, in some of the art, you see him walking slowly like the Terminator, or like some kind of ominous villain coming towards you. And he's in shadows, and you're rushing to do whatever you can to survive. But he's going to eventually get there, and he's eventually going to stop you. And Brainiac is just portrayed nicely as an ominous, scary villain, and they did a good job in that. And I like what they did with Brainiac, cleaning up the continuity and making him a badass villain. The story is quick and to the point, which is good for it and also bad, and I'll deal with it in the bad, but it's quick to the point, it's a quick read, and you'll go through this in less than an hour. And if you're a quick reader, you may even go through this in a half hour. It's a very quick read. The story is mapped out very nicely, too. Not only do you get a story with Brainiac, but you also get a story that's personal to Clark Kent, personal to Superman, and that's with his father. I don't want to jump into too much of exactly what that story is, but it's emotional, and it's touching, and it hits home to Clark, and it really makes you feel sad towards the end of the book. The art is very nice. What they've been doing with Superman as of recently, if you haven't noticed, at least with the 1 year later stories, is with some stories they try to portray Superman very much like Christopher Reeve. I mean, with the face, it looks hauntingly like Christopher Reeve. and I actually dig it. It looks good. I mean, it doesn't look exactly like Christopher Reeves. It's more of a jacked up version of him, but it brings Superman into this kind of new zone, this new feeling with the character. He's not cartoony and overly bulky, but he's not ridiculously skinny like he's been portrayed in some other stuff. He looks like Superman, and Christopher Reeves is a great face to use for that. All the characters are drawn nicely, particularly like Lois, Brainiac, and Supergirl. They're drawn very nicely too. So the art is good. Bad. The only bad I can think about this is that this is a very nicely well done story, but you could have done more with it. It works well for how short it is, but I mean, it is short. You'll read through this real quickly. You get this nice story, and it kind of just ends. It would have been nice if they added maybe 1 or 2 more issues to really work with the story, but then again, it might actually hurt the story at the same time. I don't know if it would have hurt the story or if it would have helped it, but as of now, I felt like they could have added an issue or 2 in here. But for the most part, the story was good. Whether or not you should get it, definitely. Superman Brainiac is one of my favorite Superman stories of all time. It's a great classic story that kind of touches up Superman and his mythos, at least with his villain. This also leads into the New Krypton saga. So if you read this and then you go into the current Superman stuff, which is New Krypton, War for New Krypton, Battle of Superman, you know, all that kind of stuff, this is a great place to start, especially if you haven't read any Superman yet. It's an epic story. It cleans up Superman's continuity. The emotions are very nice in here, and everyone's portrayed really cool. I really enjoyed Superman Brainiac. I think it's a story that should be picked up by comic book fans and is a must-have for Superman fans. Awesome story, awesome characters, awesome dialogue, awesome art. What can I say? It was awesome. So with that said, I'm going to end this review here. This is Andrew saying, peace out for now.